On January 17, 2014, officials showed up at the home of 52-year-old Harold Sask and found his horrendous body. While researching it, worked out that there was a 18-year-old young lady residing with him, whom everybody believed was his stepdaughter. Anyway, she was not at the location of the crime. When officials found what had occurred at the house, the whole local area was stunned. Sarah Gonzalez McLinn was brought into the world on July 9, 1994. She experienced childhood in Topeka, the capital city of the territory of Kansas in the U.S. During the trivial few long stretches of her childhood, she didn't go to class and was self-taught. Sarah grew up a guileless and bashful youngster, yet, in addition, extremely kind and obliging. She had a more youthful sibling who was impaired, whom she generally cared for, and a more seasoned sister with whom she was exceptionally close. At when Sarah was only a kid, a neighbor started to manhandle her, and it caused her serious injury which impacted her life. She started to have bad dreams in which she remembered that maltreatment and awakened around midnight in a frenzy. The pressure and tension kept her from carrying on with her life in harmony. That is when Sarah began taking off from home and drinking liquor. In light of this, her folks chose to take her to a clinician to assist her arrangement with the injury. Yet the circumstance didn't further develop. Things were deteriorating and more terrible at home. Around similar time, her folks separated, and it impacted her a ton. As per Sarah, her folks separate from made her vibe disliked at home. Over the long haul, she totally moved away from her dad, and her relationship with her mom turned out to be progressively tangled. Sarah felt awkward at ease and tried to leave quickly. At 14 years old, Sarah went to work in a pizza parlor. The proprietor of the spot was a moderately aged man named Harold Sasa. From the start, Harold was a fruitful and upstanding man. Around then, he possessed 3 Petries and was a passionate Christian, yet his representatives had an alternate variant. They said that Harold was a degenerate. One of the workers, Terry David, the director of one of the, let him know that Harold had requested that he employ just youthful, appealing young ladies. Clearly, Terry could have done without this, and at whatever point he employed a young lady, he cautioned her to look out for her chief. Yet when Sarah was recruited and gotten this admonition from Terry, she was still extremely credulous. Thus she felt that the person was misrepresenting. When the young lady began working at the pizza joint, Harold began to associate with her, and over the long haul he acquired her trust. He even got her from school, drove her to work, got her things, and requested that she let him know everything occurred, and, surprisingly, said to her to consider him a dad. However, he told her not to express anything to her mom about what was happening. So Sarah submitted to him, and her family never realized about the relationship lined up with her relationship with Harold, who she started to see as a dad. At 16 years old, Sarah endured one more assault, this time by a dear companion. As per the young lady, she and her companion were traveling together when he pushed her onto a table. The table broke. The person heaped on top of her, assaulted her, and, surprisingly, consumed her back with a cigarette. Clearly, all of this significantly affected Sarah, who through psychotherapy had previously had the option to adapt to the maltreatment she endured as a kid. Yet with the new episode, the phantoms of the past returned into her life. Sarah returned to psychotherapy, and this time she was determined to have post-horrible pressure issue. What is going on immediately spiraled crazy, and the pressure and misery heightened to where the high schooler attempted to take her life. Subsequently, Sarah was put in a mental clinic. For a while there, she got treatment along with prescription for restoration. When Sarah escaped the emergency clinic, she kept on taking her doctoration and see a therapist. This again begun to help and move past all that she had experienced anyway. The circumstance at home was extremely distressing, and Sarah couldn't stand the air there. When the young lady was hospitalized, she was done working at Harold's pizza place. However, they stayed in contact. He would get her from school, take her to lunch, and get some information about her life. The 50-year elderly person saw an open door when Sarah was very defenseless and chosen to exploit it. During that time of Sarah's life, Harold recommended a few times that she move in with him. He was single had no kids, no responsibilities, and resided alone close to his business, was doing quite well, and he let the young lady know that he could help her monetarily. Harold even proposed to pay for her schooling costs. Sarah, over and over, declined. She would have rather not moved in with Harold, in spite of the fact that she truly needed to venture out from home on the grounds that the fights with her mom were every day and frequently very vicious. At last, in 2012, when she moved on from secondary school and turned 17, Sarah acknowledged Harold's proposition and moved in with him. At the time, she couldn't help thinking that this was the start of another life, and that with this man she would have all that she wanted, and Ted. For sure, at first Harold resembled that he purchased Sarah all that she wanted, selected her in school, gave her food, a rooftop over her head, didn't but request anything. Consequently, he got her gifts, was extremely mindful of what she wanted as well as what she needed. However, everything changed when Sarah turned 18 years of age around. Then Harold started to make her a profane proposition. He offered Sarah to have sexual intercourse with him in return for all that he had accomplished for her. Clearly, she denied this every one of the earlier months while she had been living with Harold. They had made themselves look like stepfather and stepdaughter to forestall false impressions and misinterpretations of their relationship. Sarah never felt that the man would request that she have sex with him. As per the young lady's mom, she never consented to her girl moving in with Harold. Yet she never stood by listening to her. Few individuals near Harold and Sarah said that she even called him daddy, so the way that he asked her for closeness truly shocked her. When Sarah rejected the man, turned out to be extremely furious. He suggested that, on the off chance that she didn't have sex with him, there would be no home or whatever else for her. Harold likewise realized that Sarah had a background marked by substance misuse issues, and that she had begun utilizing liquor and unlawful substances quite early on. The man exploited this and offered her various unlawful substances. When Sarah was affected by drugs, Harold attempted to have sex with her and, surprisingly, assaulted her multiple times. As each time the young lady rejected, the man ended up being more furious, forceful, and rough towards her. Harold then composed Sarah a rundown of the relative multitude of things he had gotten her, and expressed that until she returned all the cash to him, she was unable to take off from the house. He controlled her by taking steps to sue her for non-installment on the off chance that she attempted to take off by. Then Sarah had a solid employment. However, she was procuring the lowest pay permitted by law, and her pay was sufficiently not to cover all that Harold requested of her. Among the costs were 2 costly restorative medical procedures that Sarah had undertaken from Harold. One was a nose work, and the other was a butt cheek embed. The subsequent medical procedure caused her such torment that she was taking drugs for quite a long time. Harold requested $116,000 from Sarah. Notwithstanding this multitude of installments for gifts, the man likewise requested that the young lady pay him for the months she resided in his home. Sarah could not get back to her mom on the grounds that Harold mentally manhandled and controlled her, telling her that nobody needed her at home and that she would not be acknowledged there. Her way of behaving changed totally, and she was, as of now, not a calm, credulous young lady with an extremely good nature. She turned into a forceful young lady who would have rather not conversed with anybody and protected herself at the smallest comment. As per Sarah, progressively the thoughts in her mind changed, and she started to want to kill first. She went to a pet store and purchased bunnies there. At the point when she wrecked home, she them with a blade cleaned them, and afterward ate them. Harold saw this. However, he expressed nothing to her besides he chuckled at her. In the event that Sarah wasn't working, she was at Harold's home, generally affected by unlawful substances, liquor, or feeling exceptionally terrible. As a result of all that she had experienced, at one point, Sarah began taking antidepressants, figuring they could help her. Half a month went by, and they had no impact. Then she changed to more grounded ones, yet they didn't help either. At last, the young lady entered a twisting of implosion, and it was inevitable. Prior to something horrible occurred in that house on January 17th, 2014. Cops came to Harold's home. His collaborators had detailed him missing after he had not appeared at the pizza shop for a few days, and they had been not able to reach him. The officials rang the doorbell a few times, yet nobody addressed. That is the point at which they chose to search in the windows to check whether they could see anything. One of them figured out how to see a man's body in a pool of blood, and the officials separated the entryway of the house to get inside. Once inside the house, they found a few void-legger jars close to the body. Harold's body was taken to the clinical inspector's office for assessment. He was resolved that he had kicked the bucket from a few cut injuries to the neck. Furthermore, a report was made concerning what was in the brew jars. As per the measurable report, they contained hints of narcotic pills. The police realized that Sarah resided in the house with Harold, and when they arrived, they found her wireless. Knowing her age, they thought she was missing. Maybe somebody had taken the young lady, despite her desire to the contrary. The officials later discovered that Sarah had called work and said she would be away for a couple of days because of the demise of a general. They addressed the young lady's family. Her mom said her girl had been attempting to reach her grandma. The police followed the calls and observed that the calls were produced using payonees at different odds and ends shops by taking a gander at what country these stores were found in. They discovered that Sarah was going from Kansas to Texas. They additionally evaluated the observation film at these stores and verified that the guest was without a doubt Sarah and that she was distant from everyone else at the time. They understood that she had not been captured, and she turned into the great suspect in Harold's homicide on January 25, the 2014, 11 days after the homicide. 19-year-old Sarah was found by park officers snoozing Harold's vehicle. This occurred in Everglades Public Park at around 10:30 p.m. At the point when they awakened her to capture her, they found she had a stacked firearm. A pursuit of the vehicle turned up one more weapon, unlawful substances, and emphasized 2 blades. At the hour of her capture, Sarah was not taken to Kansas, yet was left in Florida, where she was addressed by a few examiners. The young lady offered no obstruction and didn't attempt to make up any story. She immediately conceded that she had, without a doubt, killed Harold and ran away from the area. Sarah said that the man had been harassing her and that she saw that this was the best way to dispose of him. The young lady told everything exhaustively as per her. A couple of days before the wrongdoing, she went to the drugstore when Harold was not at home and purchased a bunch of pills for a sleeping disorder on January 14th. 3 days before the revelation of the man's body, she had a 3-day weekend, and he started to make fixes in the house, requesting that Sarah present to him a brew. The young lady said she understood at that point that this was her opportunity. She realized that Harold wouldn't just drink the lager, yet would request increasingly more. After the 3rd K of brew, Sarah started slipping pills into Harold's beverage shed. Said she held on until the 3rd one so he wouldn't see the bizarre taste. While Harold was requesting brew, she kept on slipping the pills into his beverage, and as per the police, provided him with a sum of 5. This medication, joined with liquor, made Harold pass out. Then Sarah rapidly limited his options and feet together. Eventually, she said Harold awakened for about a moment and murmured something. Sarah didn't comprehend him well indeed yet. Said she felt exceptionally upset for the man at that point anyway, not entirely settled to convey out her arrangement. She took out a blade and cut him a few times in the neck, almost executing him. When the young lady understood that Harold was dead, she took his blood and composed the word opportunity on the restroom wall. Sarah then, at that point, cleaned up, showered, and put on something else. After that, she took cash, a tablet, Harold's vehicle from the house, and left. She says she left her phone so the police wouldn't follow it and thought something had happened to her too. The young lady headed toward Texas, yet when she arrived, she could have done without it there, in light of the fact that it was excessively cold around evening time. So she headed to Florida on the manner in which Sarah dozed in the vehicle more often than not, and halted to lay on the expressway. Once she showed up in Florida, she went to James Pastry Specialist, a nearby tattoo craftsman, to get a tattoo. This was not Sarah's most memorable tattoo. She previously had the expression, "No one but God can pass judgment on me," on her shoulder. For her second tattoo, Sarah picked a statement from a book, "Be careful with the dim pit at the lower part of our heart, in its frigid dark profundities, stay bizarre contorted animals that are best not upset. Sarah had trusted that by helping out the police, recounting the entire story of Harold's maltreatment, they would oblige her and drive her sentence anyway. The police chose not to do so. They introduced Sarah as a genuine mental case, and Harold as a quiet Catholic who simply needed to help the young lady. At one point in the cross-examination, Sarah told one of the officials that during the angry outbursts she encountered at Harold's home, she had the desire to kill examiners, said that Sarah killed Harold on the grounds that she needed to feel what it resembled to kill a man, not on the grounds that he all was savage toward her. The police likewise found a message on Sarah's telephone in which Harold apologized to her for driving her to have sex with him anyway. No part of this was displayed to the jury in the main preliminary, and all proof of Harold's maltreatment of Sarah was overlooked for. Dealing with the young lady in February 2014, Sarah's preliminary started. Sarah's legal counselor would have rather not utilized Harold's maltreatment utilizes against the young lady as the arraignment. Didn't consider them. It is possible that he chose to utilize a different dangerous procedure and recommended that Sarah try to effectively defend herself by reason of mental problem, because she experiences conflicting personality psychosis as indicated by the protection variant. Sarah had framed numerous change in herself to adapt to the maltreatment she was exposed to. Anyway, the guard system was ineffective, and neither the appointed authority nor the jury accepted a word. The safeguard said the indictment introduced another intricate story they fixed. Aided on the way that Sarah killed Harold just to encounter what it was like to kill a man. They contended that the sexual relationship, despite the fact that she was feeling the squeeze from Harold, was consensual and not piece of the viciousness. What's more, the indictment guaranteed that the boycott substances were not brought back by Harold, but rather were purchased by Sarah herself, despite the fact that there was no genuine proof of this. The main thing the arraignment had the option to demonstrate 100% was that Sarah had proactively wanted to kill Harold. And they checked her telephone. They found a few messages shipped off her sister, illuminating her that she had currently figured out how to dispose of the individual for good. Consequently, the indictment contended that the wrongdoing was arranged and planned, which is the reason they requested a conviction for first-degree murder to additional help. The speculation Sarah's program history was likewise checked, and it was found that she had endured a month exploring the shortcomings of the neck and how to go after an individual. On September 4th, 2015, Sarah, who was 21 years of age at the time, was viewed as at fault for first-degree planned murder and condemned to life in jail with them. Plausibility of parole 50 years. Subsequent to condemning the data about Harold's all's misuse and witnesses that the arraignment didn't concede became known to the media, and the case was generally plugged. It was observed that a large part of the data about the states of Sarah and Harold's relationship was kept from the jury. For what reason it was done, it isn't known either altogether, not to ruin in that frame of mind of numerous the picture of Envoy as a tranquil strict man, or the arraignment essentially needed to accomplish the most brutal conceivable sentence. For the young lady in the end, everything pulled in expanding public consideration. In 2021, Sarah made an arrangement with the examiner which brought about her sentence being diminished from 50 years to 25 years. The young lady is as yet condemned to life in jail, yet following 25 years, she will actually want to request discharge.